Each time a new year begins, we all attempt to reset our lives. We strive to accomplish what we couldn't in the previous year and set new goals for the current one. Eating healthier, adopting a more balanced lifestyle, exercising more. We even make lists of resolutions. And on the first day of the year, we start as if the past year never existed. Seems that on January 1st, 2003, the teenager believed his life was going to be different. He decided to begin the day at 10 a.m. With a walk through the fields of Fillmore, a city in Ventura County, California. His goal for the year was to stay active, establish a daily routine, and make January 1st the start of a healthy year. While he was walking peacefully along the road, the pickup truck suddenly accelerated, heading straight for him. If he didn't move quickly, it would hit him. He jumped aside, falling to the ground between some branches. As he stood up, he found himself next to a drainage pipe. Upon glancing around, he noticed something unusual. There were numerous cypress branches and leaves, but upon closer inspection, he realized the branches were deliberately arranged and they concealed a lifeless body. The lifeless body of a young girl lay there, and at first glance, the cause of death seemed dreadful. The scene was utterly terrifying, but scratches, bruises, bumps, blood. In a state of shock, the boy immediately called emergency services. How do you eat for a month? Jan's Olives a week after. Valerie was born in Santa Clara, California on August 20, 1983 to Michelle and Kevin Savala. She was one of 4 children in the family. Valerie's life appeared to be ordinary as she had a child that experienced how family always was her straight feelings. According to her family, she was known as an energetic and vibrant creature. Her smile seemed endless, and her positivity radiated, filling everyone around her with that. From a young age, Valerie had a clear idea of what she wanted to do when she grew up. She knew what she wanted to study, and her parents were immensely proud of her. At one point, the Zavala family moved to Fillmore, a small town located. She reapplied, and I didn't you going as had. Valerie became an incredibly popular figure, especially in high school, where she studied at Fillmore High School. She was a member of the student council and a cheerleader. Her ambition led her to pursue a career in teaching, and so she applied to San Jose State University. She was quite literally the kind of person who seemed she had it all. She excelled in everything she did, was adored by her peers and kinds of issues at home or elsewhere. The year 2002, according to some sources, was the best of her life. She made more friends than ever, fit in everywhere, and started to go home for Christmas to spend time with her family and friends. There were 2 options: either stay at Denise's house, in which case she wouldn't need to call her parents since both families had known each other for years, or return home to her parents. Again, Valeria promised to return home that night, as the family had a tradition of gathering for breakfast together the next morning. But when the time came for breakfast, Valerie was nowhere to be found. Her family knocked on her door, her bed was made, and when they checked Denise's house, Denise told them that Valerie had returned home the previous night but hadn't stayed with her. The Zabala family immediately contacted the police. A teenager had found her lifeless body in the field. Forensic experts revealed the grim details. Valerie's death showed clear signs of violence. The motivation behind this crime seemed to be entirely driven by the assailant. Forensic experts revealed the brutal nature of the attack. The murderer struck her with extreme violence, beat her, and tore off her earring. In the midst of this assault, Valerie's body was dragged across the ground, showing the merciless cruelty of her attacker. The most disturbing aspect of all of this show that suggested there were no obvious suspects, no apparent issues with anyone in her life. She had no known enemies, and her only past relationship was with an ex-boyfriend with whom it was believed they had parted on good terms. This is why the police began by looking into the events of the night Valerie was last seen alive, December 31, 2002. On that evening, Valerie had spent the day with her family, everything seemingly normal. At around 8:30 p.m., she dressed up and headed to Denise's house. The distance was short, and she made her way there without delay. When she arrived at Yverdon, throughout the night, everyone took photos and videos, and in each frame, Valerie appeared joyful, dancing, eating, and laughing. It's important to note that the people present at the gathering were all young adults, ages ranging from 17 to 20. They were a tight-knit group of lifelong friends, not a formal party with adults wearing suits inside. As was always the case, an eclectic group of friends. They were simply a group of friends enjoying the night, having a good time. At around 1 a.m., Valerie called her mother, telling her that she would be home soon. However, before returning, she would drive her friend Anna home, as Anna had consumed a lot of alcohol. Valerie, who hadn't been drinking, was perfectly fine. The following morning, she intended to go back to Anna's house to return her car. Her mother thought this was a reasonable arrangement. According to witnesses, the girls said their goodbyes around 1:30 a.m. and left the party. After that moment, Valerie was never seen again. The last person to have seen her alive was Anna. The police immediately interviewed her to ask about the events that followed. Anna revealed that there was a third person in the car with them, a 17-year-old boy named Samuel. The authorities began investigating him. Samuel was a popular figure in 2002, known for playing soccer and being, crowned the king of the dance. He attended the same high school as Valerie, and there were rumors circulating that he might be romantically involved with Valerie's younger sister. However, Samuel's reputation was largely that of a nice, trustworthy guy, which initially made him seem unlikely to be involved in any suspicion. When questioned, Samuel didn't deny being part of the car ride. He explained that around 1:30 a.m., when he saw the girls preparing to leave, he approached them and asked for a ride. Samuel was feeling unwell after drinking and wanting to rest, so he asked Valerie and Anna for a ride home. Valerie, ever kind-hearted, agreed, and the three of them got into the car and drove to Anna's house. After dropping her off, he continued on to Samuel's house, where he said his goodbyes, and the two girls left. From that moment, silence fell. No one knew what happened next. Yana, confused and concerned, later told the police that she didn't know where her car was. Valerie had taken it, intending to return it the next morning. The police issued a search and seizure order for the car, and on January 2, they found it in the parking lot of a supermarket. It was perfectly parked with no obvious signs of a struggle or damage on the outside, but inside the car, the story changed. In the back of the vehicle, they found two bags, one belonging to Anna and the other to Valerie. More chillingly, they discovered the clothes that Valerie had been wearing, now missing from her lifeless body. There have been also some. This discovery raised a crucial question. Did the location where the car was found have any connection to the person responsible for Valerie's death? The police were now faced with a dark mystery. Given the position of the vehicle, the police immediately suspected that the murderer had to be nearby. They theorized that the crime was likely committed in the parking lot and that the killer could have easily gone to retrieve another car to dispose of the body, leaving it at the location where it was. As they searched the area, they discovered something significant. Valerie's ex-boyfriend, Isaac Flowers, lived only 4 blocks away. The couple had been together from about 5 years before breaking up due to Isaac's jealousy. On the night of Valerie's death, it was revealed that Valerie had made plans to meet Isaac after dropping Anna off at home. Around 2 a.m., they were supposed to meet up, and the two had been in constant contact throughout the evening. With this new information, Valerie's friends share that Isaac's jealousy had been a major issue during their relationship, which led to their breakup. Knowing that Valerie had plans to meet Isaac that night, and was never seen again afterward. He quickly became a person of interest in the investigation. This shift in focus was noted in a statement made when the police questioned Isaac about the night Valerie was supposed to meet him. He insisted that Valerie never showed up. He explained that he tried to call and text her, but she didn't respond, so he assumed she had decided not to reconcile. Isaac's version of events seemed plausible, but the investigators remained cautious, not fully. With little evidence to go on, the police held a press conference urging the public to come forward with any information, whether they had seen or heard anything relevant. Remarkably, the police received 2 significant tips shortly after. The first tip came from a couple who'd been driving through the area where Valerie's body was later found. They had noticed a pickup truck parked nearby with a man standing next to it, facing away from them. After a while, he turned around and the couple was able to provide a detailed description of the man. They said he appeared to be Hispanic, in his early 20s, tall and burly, around 170. However, they couldn't recall the exact clothes he was wearing. Based on this description, the police created a composite sketch, which they distributed shortly after. Another couple called in with a similar sighting. This couple had been near the supermarket parking lot during the early morning of January 1st and saw the same man, confirming the previous description. They also noticed that he was wearing a distinctive varsity jacket of 2 colors, which provided an additional clue. Despite these promising leads, the case hit a standstill. No more witnesses came forward, and there were no further clues to follow. The investigation remained at an impasse until January 6, 2003, when an inspector rejoined the team. Valerie had been well-liked, with no known enemies, no confrontations, and no signs of stalkers, which only deepened the mystery. The inspector immediately joined the investigation, and after reviewing the case file, a discovered name that stood out: Samuel Puebla. This was a name he recognized, as she had investigated him just a few weeks earlier. In December 2002, Samuel had been arrested for breaking into a family's house. While there, he confessed to the crime and even revealed where he had disposed of the stolen items: a dumpster behind the church of St. Breza of Assisi in Kilbourne. This struck the investigator as significant because the church was relatively close to the supermarket parking lot where Valerie's car had been found. It was a short drive away, and it occurred to the team that criminals often return to places that are familiar and convenient, especially if they've used them successfully before. So, on January 7th, at the north side church service, to their shock, they found crucial items. Among the debris, they discovered branches from a cypress tree, the same type of tree that had been used to cover Valerie's lifeless body. They also found a pair of women's underwear and an earring that matched the one Valerie had been wearing. Additionally, they uncovered shoe prints of what said large. The evidence was mounting, and while they still couldn't prove Samuel's direct involvement, the investigators were beginning to piece together a more sinister story. At this point, the police still couldn't prove Samuel's direct involvement in Valerie's death. The underwear, the earring, and the cypress branches pointed toward him, but they were all circumstantial pieces of evidence. The lab report revealed that Valerie's chest contained saliva that didn't match her own DNA. This new evidence gave the police a strong lead. The DNA didn't belong to Valerie. But the DNA didn't belong to Valerie. With this new development that they obtained search and DNA warrant for Samuel's house. What they found in Samuel's home stunned them. They discovered an alarming number of women's underwear, indicating he had been stealing intimate clothing for various women for months. Additionally, they found several stolen cell phones. Many of these thefts had been reported, but the identity of the thief had remained a mystery. Painted now. The evidence painted a disturbing cushion of personal parts of your life. At this point, the police were closing in on Samuel. As the evidence against him mounted, the discovery of sneakers matching the same size and pattern as the ones found behind the Church of Cyprus, much of Assisi, further linked him to the crime scene. These same footprints had been found in the parking lot of the Soup apartment. And to make matters worse for Samuel, the multicolored varsity jacket, similar to the one described by witnesses, was also taken. As the police team continued their search of Samuel's house, they focused on gathering more evidence, including bloodstains and DNA samples. They took saliva samples from inside his mouth, and the pressure mounted. Once again, they questioned Samuel about the night of the crime. He repeated his previous story, but this time they confronted him with the news that Valerie's body had been found with a sex. The authorities made it clear to Samuel that if he didn't confess, he would face serious charges. His nerves began to show, and the pressure was palpable. It was January 2003, and the investigation was about to take a decisive. It was a freezing January of 2003, and Samuel's nerves were clearly getting the best of him. He began to tremble, a mix of cold, anxiety, and the weight of the situation overwhelming him. His agitation became evident, and in a moment of distress, he altered his version of events. He admitted to spending more time with Valerie than he had originally claimed. He said that they had flirted and that in the backseat of the car, they had consensual sex. He insisted it wasn't rape and explained that he hadn't confessed earlier because he believed Valerie, being older, wouldn't have wanted to be involved with it. However, the police didn't believe his story. They were aware that Valerie had not consented and that the encounter had escalated. Through his semi-confession, the truth began to emerge. Valerie had parked the car in the supermarket parking lot, said goodbye to Samuel, but when he tried to kiss her, she refused. He couldn't accept rejection. In a fit of rage, he tried to force himself for it. When Valerie fought back and tried to escape, he, chased her down, assaulted her, and strangled her into unconsciousness. In a final brutal act, he dragged her into the car and transported her to the back of the Church of St. Francis of Assisi. This would mark the tragic end of Valeres's life, as Samuel's violent actions sealed her fate. Once at the church, Samuel took off Valerie's clothes, starting with her underwear. At that moment, Valerie, still alive, regained consciousness and bolted from the car, running toward freedom. Samuel, furious, chased her down and, in a final brutal life, struck her in the head, strangled her, and ended her life. He then walked home, grabbed his truck, and returned to the scene to dispose of the body. However, as he was leaving this scene, he was seen by a couple. When he abandoned the body at its final location, another couple witnessed him. The police now had several critical pieces of evidence: fingerprints from the 3 locations, the witnesses' testimonies, and he had told his story trembling, full of anxiety, and his own ease didn't go unnoticed. At this point, the investigation took another crucial turn. The police had been searching his room when they discovered a jacket that immediately struck them as familiar. A jacket worn by Samuel at the party, visible in photos and videos from the night of the crime. This was the final piece of the puzzle. The jacket, along with Samuel's DNA, was sent to the lab, and months later, the results confirmed the police's suspicion. Samuel's DNA was found at the crime scene, and his saliva was on Valerie's body. The blood stains on the jacket were conclusively linked his lie, solidifying. The results came in June 2003, and Samuel Pueblo was promptly charged with first-degree murder and attempted sexual abuse. From that moment on, everything in Fillmore seemed to freeze in disbelief. Samuel, who for years had been compared to be the perfect boy, the love of human answer, and no one could fathom that this seemingly perfect young man had killed Valerie. The evidence was irrefutable, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now it's your turn. What do you think of this case? Do you believe the sentence was fair? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to leave a like if you found this post intriguing. Also, the secret word is Tawaria 2025. Leave it in the comments and I'll like your post because I correct. Thank you all for watching and keep an eye out for updates. See you in the next video.